Hello, everyone, and welcome to the February 25th, 2025 Portsmouth Board of Commissioners meeting. We call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So to begin the meeting, I would request an acceptance of the December 17th, 2024 meeting minutes, as well as the February 12th, 2025 meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the meetings, minutes of the meetings from December 17th, 2024 and February 12, 2025.
Second. Thank you. And Commissioner Schur is remote this evening, so we'll be taking roll call votes. Is there any discussion on these minutes? With none, Commissioner Schur on the motion. Is that a yes from you, Commissioner Schur?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Fernald?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 3-0. Now we're up for public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to speak this evening? What? No? Okay. Well, you do have some guests, which are always welcome, but no comment for this evening, so we'll move right into new business. And the first, we did not have our January, due to some scheduling conflicts, we were not able to have our January meeting, so we're going to commence new business with just some housekeeping, and that's first to appointment of the commission chair and clerk. Would anyone like to make a motion with respect to that?
I'll make a motion that we keep everything status quo as is, everyone in their positions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. With not seeing any other discussion, Commissioner Fernald?
Yes.
Commissioner Schur?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That's 3-0. Next is represented on the City Ethics Committee. Commissioner Schur, it's my understanding that you had that, we are going to actually pick from the box thank you, Jackie's always keeping us on point, and we appreciate you very much for that. So
It's just a drawing at random.
okay, so the drawing at random.
So I will have the chief read the name.
Drum roll, please.
And the winner is Commissioner Kate Coyle.
Two-time loser.
Sometimes winning is losing, but I will certainly fulfill my role to the best of my ability. So, now, next on the agenda is a discussion of the Municipal Building Blue Ribbon Committee. And I'll speak to that. We have had there's been a couple meetings, mostly where the committee is just getting started, so it's been largely organizational as well as doing some getting some foundation information. So specifically, everybody on the committee did tours of both the police department as well as the city complex, just to get a sense of space. We've had some discussions about sort of gathering some of the information that have already, that's already been in the works. There's a meeting tomorrow, the Blue Ribbon Committee's meeting tomorrow, to discuss some of the staff space needs and then a plan going forward. So hopefully we'll, by the time we have the police commission meeting next month, we'll have some more traction and we'll be able to really present some of the progress that the group has made. Does anybody have anything else to add with respect to that? Chief, anything else?
I think you covered it.
Okay. Facilities update. So first we have restoration, and Chief, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So back when we were doing a lot of work back here, there was some agreement to do some additional duct cleaning that got postponed, and now we're going to bring that forward and have the internal ducts of the police department cleaned. We're in the works of having that arranged now.
Great. And those ducts have been cleaned previously, but they need to be updated. Is that kind of how it works?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Next, on to community priorities. We had a community survey done, which was, it's always good to have those surveys done. It's part of our CALIA accreditation, but also good for the police department just to get input. That, as I understand, is published to the website. Does anybody have any reflections or anything they'd like to share with respect to that community survey or otherwise?
I just wish there would be more public participation from the public. I just,
We welcome that.
yes, we please, when we ask you for your opinions, we want you to take a survey. We're looking for input. We need all the information and the data that we can get from you in order to make good decisions for everyone. And the lack of participation from the public, not helpful.
So chime in. Commissioner Scher, do you want to share anything?
No, I encourage people to participate. You know, it's particularly in this time when, you know, we're talking about the police station, we're talking about the police department more. It's really helpful to have comments from the broad swath of the community, not just a few people.
I agree.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, overall, I think the responses that we did get were in favor of what we are doing as a police department. But this is the opportunity for us to reach out to the community to find things that maybe we're not doing good, or things we could do better, or things that we could be doing that we're not doing. So we're just looking to get as much feedback from the community that we serve in these results. This is also a part of our CALIA accreditation, is to, you know, community engagement and looking for input from our community to effectively do our jobs.
And it is tied intricately to the effort to be community policing. The goal of the police department towards that community policing model, and the community input is so valuable in terms of to grow, right? To grow and develop and be the best at what we're doing here.
Right.
So, all right. Before the other thing I wanted to mention is, and Chief, maybe you can speak to this about, as part of community priorities, but also the new facility is with respect to the staffing survey. Do we have a timeline of the staffing study? And could you speak to when we think that study is going to come out and how that's progressing?
So we are currently in the middle of the staffing study. The company is conducting their, you know, the questions. They're interviewing members of the community, interviewing members of the police department. And at the end of all this, we're looking to have the final results sometime in May. They should compile all the information and have a report that will be presented to the city council.
And I think I can speak on behalf of the commission in that we're really looking forward to that staffing study. You look around what's happening in Portsmouth and all the growth in building, it doesn't take much to see all the new condos going up, all the new commercial endeavors, all the new hotels that have come into town in the last 10 years, and the new restaurant seats. And what that tells you, you know, just even for a lay person, is that requires more policing. It requires more people to keep our community safe. And I think that, you know, I look forward to that staffing study, because I think it's going to be reflective of all the changes in the community and the growth in the community in the last 10 years. So,
And it'll provide a guide for us to move forward in the future. We're looking forward to the results.
yeah. So at this point, I am going to request a motion to suspend the rules to allow discussion of a couple of non-agenda items.
I make a motion that we suspend the rules.
Okay, thank you. To
So-
discuss.
Seconded.
Thank you, Commissioner Scher. And while you're there on the motion, Commissioner Scher,
Aye.
Commissioner Fernald?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So the reason we need to have this is because I misspoke at our public hearing on the budget. So inadvertently said close the public hearing when what I meant was to close the meeting. The reality is the public hearing on the budget remains open because this is an ongoing process. So with that, I would request a motion, and that was at the meeting on the 12th of this month. So with that, I would request a motion to reopen the public hearing session on the fiscal year 26 budget proposal.
I make a motion.
So moved.
Do you want to finish?
Sure. I'll make a motion to reopen the public hearing for fiscal budget 26.
Commissioner Scher?
Second.
Okay. Is there any other further discussion on that? It was simply a error in my delivery, so I apologize for that. So on that motion, Commissioner Fernald,
Yes.
Commissioner Scher,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So then our, just as a follow-up, a second item with that wasn't on the agenda that we wish to discuss is just an update on the budget process, because we had that budget hearing on the 12th. From there, we had some additional efforts, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Chief, initially to talk a little bit about those things.
Is he going to put this up there?
And we're just going to wait a minute while we get a document posted on the Zoom for anyone watching this, either on Zoom or thereafter.
Okay. So in our meeting on the 12th, we talked about our proposed budget, and since then we've continued to work on it. And what was presented there is our current FY25 budget was $14,586,704. To keep a status quo budget going into FY26 would have been an increase of $850,000 or 5.83%. The guidelines from the City Council were provided with the directive to try to get to 2.9%. To reach that would give us a $15 million budget, approximately, and approximately we need to reduce our budget by $423,000, $427,000, which would be a 2.93% decrease from our status quo. In order to get to close to within what the council guidelines, we've made some additional reductions in our proposed budget. We had a line item for $161,000 for our CAD RMS system that we anticipated was going to already be implemented, and we would have had our first service agreement that we would have had to make a payment on that was in our budget. But since we have not gone live yet, and that process is still in the making, we're going to take that $161,000 out and use money that was allocated in our CIP for bringing this new software system on board. So that will allow us to pull that amount of money out of our fiscal year 26 budget. And in addition to that, we have 3 police officer positions that we're going to do delay hires to help us reduce the amount of money that we'd be requesting in our budget. With all together, with the FY26 revised budget, it'd be at $15,086,095, a reduction of $499,391. Actually, an increase of $499,000, or a percentage of 3.42%. That is still $72,000 above the 2.9, but we feel to properly fund the police department, that's the number that we're at right now. We will continue to try to find ways to reduce that, but this is the budget as of today that we are presenting.
Thank you, Chief.
A question?
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Scher.
Chief, could you explain why a status quo budget increases last year's budget $850,000?
Right. So the majority of our budget is made up of personnel. Almost 85% of our budget is personnel. And we are contractually obligated through contracts that were signed off last year. Those increases drive the majority of that 5.83% increase.
Thank you.
So just to put that in context, so what you're talking about is that this status quo is the union contracts that are and rate of increase that were there. It's fixed where you have signed contracts. And when I say signed, they were signed by the city council. So the city council knew of these sort of increases that we were up again, you know, that when they signed these contracts, they knew the annual increase. And so when we're talking about status quo, it's not adding anything new. It's all what we're saying is status quo is just based on what those union contracts that were already approved by the city council. So in order to come in at this new guideline, if you will, it's basically, you know, we're delay hiring, but essentially it's reducing the staffing that we can put, the officers that we can put out into the community now. Because what
correct.
we're saying is we can't put those people out into the community now because we have to, in an effort to meet this reduction in the limitations of the guidelines for the rate of increase after these union contracts were approved by the city council.
Correct.
It's extraordinarily challenging, especially in the face as we talk about all the development.
Correct.
Yes.
Commissioner Scher, do you have anything else?
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Fernald?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. All right, well, that finishes up our non-agenda items. So Chief, we turn it over to you for some grants and donations.
Right. First will be the grant and donations. We received a JAG grant in the amount of $11,987 from the U.S. Department of Justice's Bureau of Justice Assistance. This will support our leadership and well-being training for law enforcement officers. We are looking to bring a trainer in to speak on wellness, and this grant will be used to pay to accommodate that. So I'll need a motion for acceptance from the commission.
I'll make a motion to accept the $11,987 JAG grant from the DOJ's Bureau of Justice Assistance and forward it to the City Council for their action.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? I think it's great that we're doing training opportunities for our officers. It's great that we're going to have someone come in, so all the officers, everyone gets that training, and anything we can do to help with officer well-being as well as retention is excellent. So. On the motion, Commissioner Fernald.
Yes.
Commissioner Scher.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you.
Next, looks like
Next would be unsolicited donation of $500 from Service Credit Union, Portsmouth branch, to the Auxiliary Police Association as a part of their Adopt a Nonprofit program. The donation recognizes the Auxiliary Police Association for its outstanding work and positive impact on the community. That is for $500, if we could get a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the $500 donation from the Service Credit Union's Portsmouth branch to the Auxiliary Police Association and forward that to the City Council for their action.
Second.
Any discussion? Not hearing any on the motion, Commissioner Scher.
Aye.
Commissioner Fernald.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you. And the third donation is a $300 donation from Jason Page of the Portsmouth Police Explorers Post, 2609. This is $300. We have a Youth Explorer program, and Mr. Page was kind enough to make a $300 donation that I had asked for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the $300 donation from Jason Page to the Portsmouth Police Explorers, Post 2609, and forward that to the City Council for their action.
Second.
Any discussion? Not hearing any, Commissioner Scher.
Aye.
Commissioner Fernald.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Moving on to the crime analyst report, Chief.
Crime analyst report, we'll speak on I'll start with January, then move into February. Calls for service in comparison 2023, we had 44,806 calls for service. In 2024, we had 39,544, a percentage decrease of 11.7%. If you go under arrests, we had 866 arrests in 2023. However, in 2024, we had 929 arrests, an increase of 7.3%. Next is DWI arrests, where you see a big increase. In 2023, we had 81 DWI arrests. In 2024, we had 107, an increase of 32.1%. Reports taken in 2023 was 2,445 reports that were taken. In 2024, we took 2,347, a 4% decrease. Reportable motor vehicle accidents, there was 522 in 2023. In 2024, there was 503, a reduction of 3.6%. Motor vehicle stops, in 2023, there was 8,144. In 2024, there was 7,476, for a decrease of 8.2%. In an involuntary admission for mental health calls, we had in 2023 51. In 2024, that number increased to 62, an increase of 21.5%. In addition, that's people who we actually took into custody for mental health. Now, the total number of mental health calls in 2023 was 210. And in 2024, that number went down to 178, a 15.2% decrease, which I think is a big factor of our social worker. Yeah. Juvenile matter calls in 2023, we had 160. In 2024, that number was reduced to 125, for a decrease of 21.9%. Again, some of the actions of our social worker. Moving into February of 2025, this is a comparison on the average from 2022 to 2024. For the month of January, there was 3,764 calls of service. In January of this year, 2025, we've had 2,968 calls, a decrease of 21.1%. The arrests, again, have gone down. In January of 2022 to 2024, the average number of arrests was 83. In 2025, in January, we had 64 arrests, down 22.9%. Reports taken, 2022 to 2024 was 194 in the month of January, and this year we are at 203, an increase of 4.6%. Reportable motor vehicle accidents was 40 in the previous years, and this year we're at 38. It's down 5.8%. Motor vehicle stops, previous years was 748. This year we're at 517. That's a 30.9% decrease. I think one of the bigger factors in that is our staffing levels, and with that, our officers have been busy attending other calls, so they aren't able to attend to motor vehicle stops like we have previously. The IEA arrests for the mental health people who we take in custody was 4 in the previous years, and this year we are at 8. That's an 84.6% increase. Juvenile matter calls was 16 in the previous years. In 2025, we're at 12, for a 25% decrease. That's it for the crime analyst report. Move into the motor vehicle stops. December of 2024, this is for the month of for last month, would have been in last month's meeting in January. There was 641 motor vehicle stops, 20 summonses, and 37 reportable motor vehicle crashes. Moving into January of this year, we had 517 motor vehicle stops, 14 summonses, and 38 reportable motor vehicle crashes. So that number stayed somewhat consistent. That is all I have.
Okay. I mean, is it fair to say, Chief, that some of this there's like a number of things at play in terms of looking at this. One, some of the reduction in mental health calls as well as juvenile matter calls are probably a combination of the 988, use of 988 and the social worker.
Yes, and the mobile
Crisis
mobile
response team.
as well.
So that's, and then, but at the same token, and that's great. I mean, when we see this reduction in some of these motor vehicle stops, that we're having to be, as the police department's having to be more reactive than proactive in some respects because of the staffing shortages.
Correct.
All right, does anybody else have any comment? Commissioner Scher?
No.
Okay. All right, well then,
Financial report.
yeah, take it away.
Financial report. We're currently tracking about 1.5% below the cap for this period, but I do want to note that that span is probably a little larger. We haven't done our grant journal entries yet for quarter 1 and quarter 2. Those will be in by the next meeting on March 18th. So we'll have that completed. Regarding the FY26 budget process, we have a meeting with the city manager on Monday, March 3rd, and then the final public comment on our budget will be at your March 18th meeting. After that, the police budget request will be submitted to the city manager for inclusion in her budget to the city council. And the public will still have an opportunity to comment on the police budget all through that process as well. Grants, Lieutenant Kinsman is working on the new ICAC Forensic Shield for 2025 through 2027 with the State Department of Justice. We're seeking another 2 years worth of funding for $1.2 million on that. It's unknown at this time if we're going to get the full request. These are New Hampshire state budget funds versus federal grant funds. So we're pretty hopeful that we'll get the $1.2 million to continue that program. We're currently reviewing grant solicitations for the applicability to our initiatives. One item we are trying to find a fit for is grant funding to possibly offset the funding for a second social worker that would help the city merge that into the budget slowly. And then in terms of the strategic plan, I'm still working on that. I apologize. We've had 3 big projects going on at the same time. 2 of them have been completed, and so now I should be able to start focusing back on the strategic plan.
Well, we appreciate that. And can you, 1.5% below the cap, what does that look like in dollars? Do you have a sense of that, or?
It's anywhere like from $150,000 to $200,000 in there that we're looking at. And that's not of the whole budget. We pull out all the annualized expenses, the leave at term, the medical and whatnot, and what's left. That's what I report the cap on.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. Or one statement and one question. The statement is as a state representative from Portsmouth, excuse me. The budget process is going to be remarkably difficult this year because of the elimination of the business profits tax and the revenue from that, which is around $150 million, a possible anticipation of a cut in Medicaid funds given the current federal administration. So I have some concern about the ICAC, the state ICAC grant. I offer that for what it's worth. Second, are you seeing any effects yet on the retraction of federal money that seems to be going on at the federal level? Has that hit the Department of Justice soliciting grant applications yet that you're aware of? Karen?
We're still getting the solicitations for the Department of Justice grant applications. We did receive notification when all the federal funds were frozen, and then within a week they were unfrozen, so we haven't had any impact from that yet.
And who knows what the future holds.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you, Commissioner Schur. That is, I think your point about the ICAC grant is well noted and is definitely going to be a concern because that grant helps so many communities, not just Portsmouth, but a lot of the communities in the area who don't have, we're a hub here to investigate and go after crimes against children.
That'll impact the entire state, and that's all federal funds and state fund, grant funded, so that would be a huge impact on our ability to investigate those cases.
And we're talking about investigating crimes against children. That's what that is exclusively their jurisdiction. On that note, we will move on to we have packets for Patrol Division and the Court Office report. Does anybody have any other business to discuss? No, our next regular meeting is going to be Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. Check the municipal calendar because sometimes schedules change and for us to achieve a quorum, we need to have everyone present. So that's the reason sometimes these meeting times change. But there is that here, further meetings on the budget. So stay tuned to the municipal calendar to get all those updates, and always feel free to contact any of the police commissioners if you have any questions. Here's to some thawing snow for everyone and safe travel on the roads. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion, we adjourn our meeting.
Seconded.
On the motion, Commissioner Schur,
Aye.
Commissioner Fernald,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Have a good night, everybody.
Okay.